Today, we're diving into the story of one of the most common mosquito-borne illnesses in the world, a disease with a name that tells you pretty much everything you need to know: breakbone fever.
But first, let me start with a little bit of a puzzle for you. What's a disease that infects millions and millions of people, but you could sit in a room with someone who has it and you'd be totally fine? You can't catch it from them. Well, that's the strange reality of dengue.
Okay, let's get right into it and unmask this virus, and we'll start with where on earth it got that crazy nickname, breakbone fever. So, the science name is dengue virus, or DENV for short. It's part of the flavivirus family, which means it's related to some other viruses you've probably heard of, like Zika and yellow fever. And as you might guess, it absolutely loves warm, humid climates, so it's most common in tropical and subtropical parts of the world.
Now this number here, 4. It seems simple, but this is where dengue gets really tricky. See, it's not just one virus. There are actually 4 different types or serotypes. And here's the scary part. When you get sick with one type, you become immune to that one for life. But if you get infected again with a different type, your own immune system can go into overdrive and cause a way more severe illness. It's a huge challenge.
So, back to our puzzle. If the virus can't spread from one person to another, how does it get around? Well, that brings us to its partner in crime, the real accomplice in this story, the mosquito.
And here are the 2 main culprits. Meet the Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus mosquitoes. Think of these guys as the getaway drivers for the virus. They are incredibly efficient at carrying it from an infected person to a healthy one. And they're not specialists either. They also spread other nasty viruses like Zika and chikungunya. They're just very good at their job.
And where do these mosquitoes like to hang out? Well, they love the heat and the rain. But the single most important factor, and the one we can actually control, is stagnant water. And I'm not talking about big ponds. A little bit of water collected in a bottle cap is enough for a mosquito to lay hundreds of eggs. It's wild.
All right, so let's actually follow the virus's journey. Understanding this cycle is the absolute key to figuring out how we can break the chain.
It's a pretty clear 4-step process. First, a mosquito bites someone who already has dengue. Then, the virus hangs out inside the mosquito for about a week, multiplying like crazy. After that incubation period, the mosquito is officially infectious. And from that moment on, for the rest of its life, it can pass that virus to every single person it bites.
So this is the big takeaway, right? The mosquito is the bridge. It's the middleman. Without that mosquito, the virus is stuck. It has no way to get from person to person. And that is the answer to the puzzle we started with.
Okay, so we know how the virus travels between people. But what happens once that infected mosquito actually bites you? What's going on inside your body? This is where that nickname, breakbone fever, starts to sound less like a nickname and more like a terrifyingly accurate description.
Yeah, that name, it's not just for dramatic effect. It comes directly from the absolutely brutal symptoms that people go through.
So once the virus gets into your system, it starts targeting your immune cells. Your body fights back, and that battle causes the classic symptoms: a really high fever that just hits you out of nowhere, a blinding headache, usually right behind your eyes, and a rash. But the signature symptom, the one that gave the disease its name, is this deep, agonizing pain in your muscles and joints. It's so bad, people swear it feels like their bones are literally breaking. Now, most people who get dengue have what's considered the mild form, which, still feels horrible, but usually gets better. The real danger is when a small number of cases turn into severe dengue. This is a medical emergency. It can lead to something called plasma leakage, where your blood vessels actually start leaking, which can cause internal bleeding and a massive drop in blood pressure. That leads to circulatory failure, where your organs just don't get enough blood. Spotting the warning signs early is absolutely critical.
So, when you're up against a virus this intense and there's no specific cure, what can you do? How do you fight back? Well, that brings us to the most important part of this whole story. Prevention is everything. And this is the hard truth. There's no magic pill for dengue. No antiviral drug that can just wipe it out. All doctors can do is provide supportive care, managing the symptoms and helping your body stay strong while it fights the virus on its own.
That means the real fight against dengue happens before anyone ever gets bitten. And the strategies are actually pretty simple. Number 1 is getting rid of any stagnant water around your home. Number 2, using insect repellent and wearing long sleeves and pants, especially at dawn and dusk when these mosquitoes are most active. And really, it all comes down to everyone in a community doing their part.
And if someone does get sick, the two most important things are getting diagnosed early so they can be monitored for those severe warning signs and staying hydrated. It sounds almost too simple, but proper hydration can truly be a lifesaver with dengue.
And all of this leaves us with one last big question. We know the enemy is a virus carried by a tiny insect, but if our best weapons aren't miracle drugs, but simple actions, like tipping over a bucket of water or putting on bug spray, then what's the bigger challenge here? The mosquito itself, or just our own behavior? It's a question that puts the power and the responsibility right in our hands.